Exciting times in Toastmaster land. The new Pathways program is about to get fired up, and Vicki and Lloyd are going to tag team a little presentation on Navigator, one of the aspects of what do they call it?
Pathways.
Pathways. And would you help me welcome Lloyd and Vicki?
Tomorrow morning, allegedly, the Pathways program starts up. There's likely to be heavy traffic on this Toastmasters server because there's thousands and thousands of people are going to be trying to access this. Vicki and I were talking about this. It might not be a bad idea to hold off for a day or two or three before you take a shot at it. I mean, feel free if you want, but there's a good chance it'll be quite slow. And then we don't exactly know what you're going to see when you get into this because neither one of us have access to it. Vicki has more access than I do because she is a club guide and a district level ambassador to Pathways, but her access is still limited.
Very limited.
And so we're going to have to kind of play it by ear. First, the good news, there is a lovely manual, beautifully printed, well written, that none of you are ever going to see. And that's because Toastmasters, in its wisdom, has decided it will not send this book to everybody. What you're going to get is the PDF version of it. I will send that with tomorrow morning's email, and you can print it yourself if you sure you will, for 28 pages. But anyway, it's got a lot of really good stuff, and it's much better written than the old manuals, but you're not going to have one of these beautiful manuals. Yes. Now, what we have here is a handout, and there we go. What Vicki and I decided would be a good thing would be to sketch out what these 10 individual pathways have in them. And the reason is, when you get it, yeah, this is small. Sorry about that.
You have a stack of cheaters that go somewhere?
Yeah, no. Don't worry, we'll give you.
We're gonna read it for you.
Yeah, what you'll see when you first log onto the Pathways thing, the TI site, the thing that says Pathways, you click on that, and one of the things in that menu will be take the assessment. And the assessment asks a bunch of questions. Vicki has actually done this. I have not.
I have done this. It's 25 questions. It asked me to pick 3 areas of focus out of, I believe, 10, and then asked me 25 questions regarding my Toastmasters, what I wanted out of this, and then gave me a choice of 3 paths.
Right. Now, it's a choice in the sense that it says, here are 3 paths that fit whatever you answered on this survey, but you're not required to take them. And so when you hear about some of these and think, wow, I like that one, even if the assessment doesn't say that's the one they recommend for you, you can pick it. So it isn't, it's not mandatory. But it will not let you choose a path until you take the assessment.
Correct.
So everybody's going to do it whether you like it or not. That's just the way it goes. Okay, let's take a look at this. What we want to do is give you a quick sketch of what these are. And the reason we're doing this is because the names of these things don't necessarily reflect their content very well.
They have to get creative because you have communication, you have leadership. How many names can you give to communication and leadership?
Now, you see, on this front page here, the one that's the dual page thing, you see there are 10 of these little things, and these are the 10 different pathways. The first I'll start, and then Vicki's going to go, and we're going to alternate here. Dynamic leadership. It says the projects on this path focus on understanding leadership and communication styles, the effects of conflict on a group, the skills needed to diffuse and direct conflict. Projects also emphasize development of strategies to facilitate change in an organization or group, interpersonal communications, and public speaking. Notice that one would probably be really useful to people who are in leadership positions in organizations or businesses or whatnot. And it gets at the idea of how to get people to cooperate, how to facilitate changes and that sort of thing. And this illustrates the good thing about Pathways. You can come up with a more or less custom program that really does fit your individual needs in your job or personal life or whatever. Okay.
Next one is effective coaching. It helps build your skills as a positive communicator and leader. The projects on this path focus on understanding and building consensus, contributing to the development of others by coaching and establishing strong public speaking skills. Each project emphasizes the importance of effective interpersonal communication. And this path also has a high performance leadership project. If you so wish to get your Distinguished Toastmasters, this would qualify for that. And please note that some of these are not available in printed materials yet. So if you were thinking of maybe going the printed path, This would not be
Don't do it.
one, don't do it.
Don't do it,
So,
yeah, go online. The third one here up at the top of the page 10 is innovative planning. This one's a little bit different. It says here, projects on this path focus on developing a strong connection with audience members when you present, speech writing and speech delivery. The projects contribute to building an understanding of the steps to manage a project, as well as creating innovative solutions. So this is kind of a hybrid between the speaking and the leadership stuff is what it amounts to, unlike the first two, which were more leadership type stuff.
right.
Okay.
Next one is leadership development. Helps you build your skills as an effective communicator and leader. The project on this path focus on learning how to manage time as well as how to develop and implement a plan. Public speaking and leading a team are emphasized in all the projects. The path culminates in the planning and execution of an event that will allow you to apply everything you have learned. So this will be one of those mastery type levels that was really in depth.
Right. This also illustrates something about these paths. They've tried on each one of them to create a lot of connections between what you'll be doing as you do the path and what you might be doing, say, in your job or your personal life or whatever. And the theory is that that'll make it not only more interesting, but also more important, which is probably true. The next one is motivational strategies. Wait, did I skip one?
No, you're
Okay.
good.
Projects focus on learning strategies for building connections with the people around you, understanding the motivation, and successfully leading small groups to accomplish tasks. This is very similar to one of the previous ones, but the previous one was more large groups, bigger organizations. This is more smaller organizations, I guess. And this is another leadership one, obviously.
All right, the next one up is persuasive influence. The projects in this path focus on how to negotiate a positive outcome, together with building strong interpersonal communication and public skills. Each project emphasized developing leadership skills to use in complex situations, as well as creating innovative solutions to challenges.
Okay, another leadership one. This next one, presentation mastery, is probably the most accurately named one of them all. And this one is almost entirely public speaking. And it says here, projects on this path focus on learning how an audience responds to you and improving your connection with audience members. Projects contribute to developing an understanding of effective public speaking technique, including speech writing and speech delivery. And project culminates in an extended speech that will allow you to apply what you've learned. That word extended kind of is an interesting word.
Isn't
I'm
it?
not sure what it means, but anyway, there it is. But that one's strictly a speaking one as opposed to a leadership one.
All right, next is strategic relationships, which helps you build your skills as a leader in communication. This project on this path focus is on understanding diversity, building personal and or professional connections with a variety of people, and developing a public relations strategy. Communicating well interpersonally and as a public speaker is emphasized in each project. All right.
Okay, that's another leadership one,
That is.
obviously. Team collaboration is, that's actually pretty accurately named too. Projects on this path focus on active listening, motivating others, and collaborating with a team. Each project contributes to building interpersonal communications and public speaking skills. You'll notice that a bunch of these sound very similar to one another, and I think they probably are,
Right.
but there are nuances in them. Okay.
And the last one is visionary communication. The projects on this path focus on developing your skills for sharing information with a group, planning communications, and creating innovative solutions. Speech writing and speech delivery are emphasized in these projects.
Okay.
All right.
That one's another public speaking one as opposed to a leadership one. Now, if you flip over to the back of that, this is more what this looks like in practice. Okay, the path is like the collection of stuff, the collection of projects and whatnot that you do as you go along. And it says here at the top, after you receive your assessment results, you can embark on the path recommended for you. It actually recommended 3.
It recommends 3. It
Yeah.
gives you a best match and then 2 others, and
Right.
then,
But if you don't agree with that, it says, or you can choose one of the other 9 paths available. It's just a recommendation, in other words. And, you know, maybe you think, nah, I don't want to do any of those. Okay, don't. It says, no matter what you choose, you'll complete at least 14 educational projects and present a minimum of 15 prepared speeches, which sounds like a lot. These are the old awards, the advanced communicators and whatnot. where 10 speeches each, there are fewer of these, so the total number of them is the same. It's just that they're divided up a little differently, is what it amounts to. In each one of them, see that little box down at the bottom, that little chart thing, there are 5 levels in each one of these pathways. And it kind of go, you start with level 1, obviously, and go through that. And it says here, the table below shows what you can expect to do at each level. No matter what path it is, it starts with an icebreaker speech. But as I understand it, the icebreakers are a little different depending on what the path is.
From what I understand.
Yeah. Neither of us have actually seen these yet. We don't have access to the real project yet, but this is what we've gleaned out of this. And then you'll notice here it goes through some other stuff. When you finish level 1, those little impossible to see little circle thingies are called badges, and they're like awards that come out periodically in the path. They're not certificates like the old kind of certificates, but they, I guess they're kind of like merit badges or something. And then you do level 2, level 3. One difference between this and the way the other educational program is set up is that you don't get the whole set of speeches all at once. You have to work through level 1, then it gives you level 2, and so on. Where those are is in that base camp thing that's online. That's how come I keep saying you gotta have a login for Toastmasters International, because you'll have your own personal little base camp area. And that's where all this stuff appears, and that's where your evaluations get put in and all that kind of stuff. Finally, when you get done with level 5 of whatever path, there is actually a certificate and a designation and whatnot. Those used to come in the mail from Toastmasters International, but they're giving us the right to print them all ourselves and distribute them. Yeah, this is kind of the mirror image of not giving us the manuals. On the other hand, though, we'll be able to give them out in the club and give people the recognition and whatnot. Now, what you've just heard is probably not extremely useful to you, but it would be a good idea to maybe read through these little descriptions again, kind of mull them over, you know, and decide, do any of these look like I really want to do them, or there's some I definitely do not want to do. Now, what happens if you pick a path and you hate it? You get the stuff and you realize it's not for you. There will be a way to actually trade it in.
From what I understand, yes.
For a limited period of time.
Right.
In other words, you only have a certain number of days or weeks or whatever. And to say, I don't like this one, you can give it back. They disappear it from your base camp and stick in the one that's going to replace it. I think you only get to do that once. Is that what you
That's what I understand
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. As you can tell, there's a lot of uncertainty about this. I mean, Vicki's been involved in this for well over a year, and there's a certain mushiness to it.
Right, yeah. And it's really interesting because I did have access to reading all of these descriptions of the paths and looking at them and being a true Toastmaster, and I bleed maroon and blue. It was really interesting because the ones that I had marked that interest me the most, none of them showed up as my 3 recommendations, which I was really surprised. However, being that I'm a Toastmaster, I'm going to probably choose the one that they said best match and see if it really fits what I was looking for. That way I'll be able to tell you as a Toastmaster, yes, their assessment was correct. My assessment of myself and what I needed was totally off. So I will be your guinea pig and let you know how that goes. But don't by any means think that you need to choose what they're telling you. If you find something that piques your interest, go for it.
Looks better to you than what they say, just do that instead. No, but they don't have the right to tell you not to, is what it amounts to.
Right.
Now, your first pass, that's what you get is because you're a member.
Yep.
And then after that, if you want to do more paths, you have to buy them. I think they cost 15 or 20 bucks
About
each.
20 bucks.
Which, if you think about it, is roughly the equivalent of 2 of the advanced manuals, which you would have had to do in the previous system. So money-wise, it works out about the same.
Exactly.
Are there any questions? I know this was, yeah, Joe.
I'm sure there's a really good reason why they completely revamped the Toastmaster program. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, this is actually the 3rd major revamping of the educational program in about the last 20 years or so. It's not a new thing. The one we've got right now is only 10, 12 years old, something like that. And the reason they did it was that I heard, well, there's one named Pat Johnson. She lived in Vancouver, BC. She's past international president. She was the keynote at one of the conferences I was at. And she's the one who was the chairperson of all of this. And she said there was a lot of feeling, they did surveys of membership, and there was a feeling that the stuff in the projects in the existing system didn't have enough connection to what people were really doing in the outside world, like their jobs and whatnot. And so that's what they were trying to do. Is that also what you've gotten?
Yes, and the little snippets that I have seen, it's more applicable to the 21st century. They've
Yeah.
added technology. One of them is writing a blog. I don't know which path it's in,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of people that want to learn blog writing. And so this gives them the chance to practice it and learn blogging. There's just so much podcasts is
Right.
included
Right,
in
that's
this type of
included.
thing. So it's 21st century.
Right.
We're moving it up.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Who wrote the curriculum?
It was written by a rather large committee,
It
I
was a
think.
committee.
I mean, like hundreds of people were involved in one way or the other. Nobody wrote, a small group didn't write all 10 paths. They had different groups writing the various paths. And the way I understood it, there were people who proposed paths, and they had like dozens of them and boiled it down to 10.
How's the path to DTM different?
I think you complete two
Two
paths.
paths, but yeah. they're-
And do a, like district
Hyper-
governor or whatever, I
Right.
mean, or area governor or whatever.
And a
So
So
it-
to do like events too and things like that and put on,
That will be part of the path,
When you say events, what do you?
Like-
well, like,
speech contest.
yes.
Oh, you don't have to, no, you don't have to enter a contest.
No, he's saying put 'em on. So yes, it will be part of the curriculum.
We had our
Yeah.
Christmas party and events, stuff like that.
I think so, but I'm not positive. I haven't seen-
So there's paths, but then is there a special DTM path?
No, if you do two paths,
Yeah.
and then you also serve as a district level officer, like an area governor, or area director, or whatever, on up. I think that's it.
And your high performance leadership.
Yeah,
So
that-
things like
yeah.
that.
So it's quite similar, actually. In terms of the amount of stuff you do, it's probably about the same.
What is high performance leadership? Is that a different, is that one of the paths?
No,
No.
that's an element in several of these paths, and it's also an element in the current educational program. That's actually the one thing in Toastmasters that was a direct connection to the outside world, because most people did their high performance leadership project based on something they did. Like Christina, you did a leadership, or like a woman's leadership thing for a women's retreat for a church, planned it and organized it and did all the speakers and stuff. You
Did a membership list for a group.
Yeah, and I did an educational program for high school kids, because they've done away with public speaking classes as a requirement in most schools.
Oh, really?
When we get at our base camp, will we be able to see this on our computers? Where will we?
I'm not
find
sure
this on?
exactly this, but you'll be able to see.
You're able to access Navigator through Pathways,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
you can
right.
find it there.
And then tomorrow on my email, I'll send out the PDF version of this manual too.
Okay.
And
So it's actually in the manual then?
yeah, that's where this came from.
Okay.
This Xerox off of a couple pages of
Okay,
that
great.
manual.
Thanks.
Do any of the speeches that we've already done count toward?
Oh, no, I'm glad you mentioned that, though. What they're going to do for 2 years, they're going to run the existing and the new program parallel to one another, to give everybody who feels like it a chance to finish up stuff in the old, in their old program or whatever. The Distinguished Club program will take into account both the new and the old program, so they'll have a way to figure out, which stuff needs that. And the theory is that 2 years should be enough for people to get done with, one set of these things, and then move on to the new program. The exception to that is brand new members who will only have the option to do this, not the old program. So if you're started in a previous set of manuals, you have 2 years to finish it.
Or I can just
Or you can just say.
drop everything and start on the new
Yeah,
plan?
there's a certain amount of argument about what would be the best thing to do. Would it be best to just jump to this new one, or stick with the old one and then jump to the new one, or whatever? And most people seem to think if you're somewhere in the, like less, somewhere in that, say, less than halfway into the manual, might as well just jump to the new
Yeah.
one. But there's no requirement to do that. You can do whatever you see fit.
Or somebody who's new,
You-
just
you-
move forward to the new.
Yes, I wouldn't
I would
mess with
suggest
that.
the old thing at all. If you haven't yet started any of your speeches or anything.
Haven't
do
even got a
this.
book yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not even sure that you're going to get one, because
All
you're
right.
right at the point where we're switching to this new program.
Perfect.
Yeah. This thing is highly dependent on being online. I mean, that's where all this stuff is gonna be, they're also supposed to have like video tutorials and all kinds of stuff in that base camp, but there again, we haven't been able to access it yet, so we haven't seen
And
it.
I have my laptop, but I don't think it will do any good because we just got shut off to Toastmasters International now,
Yeah.
so.
They're doing the transition tonight for our region.
Will they,
Or maybe 7, we might be able to.
will they provide us with marketing materials for sharing this with potential new members?
I'm assuming they will, you know, they
We
have
don't know
all
what
the,
we're talking about.
No,
How
that's-
we going? We don't know what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Thank you to my world for the last few
Yeah,
years.
that's right.
We have a new change, but I can't tell you anything about it.
yeah, I'm assuming they will. You mean like those brochures and all that kind of stuff that
Right,
we
if
can hand out?
somebody came
Yeah.
next week and they're interested in
Yeah.
joining, how do we explain?
Next
them?
week, I think they're out of luck, we're out of luck too, but there has to be new stuff because there's one program, you know.
Lloyd and I'll be able to explain it by next week. We'll
Yeah,
see.
right. I'm gonna skip next week's meeting and so everybody who's mad can yell at Vicki. Now, this is gonna be, it's like any other change, it's gonna be a little bit confusing, a little bit of stress, but other places in the world have been doing this now for like a couple of years, and it seems to be working okay.
Right. And I've talked to people at different conferences that I've attended that weren't part of Toastmaster conferences, but they just, and they are already doing pathways and speak highly of it.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm looking forward to it personally.
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing what's going to be, but we'll get through this. We'll get everybody through some of it. We're extremely lucky to have Vicki in our club because she's an ambassador and a club guide, so she gets stuff a little earlier than everybody else gets it.
15 minutes.
And sometimes it's not accurate, but hey, it comes fast, so that's the point. Yeah.
Mr. Toastmaster.
All right.
Looks like we have a lot to consider.